juga
Assalamualaikum, saya ucapkan kepada semua yang hadir, terutama sekali kerana pada waktu ini, pada zaman ini, soal perdamaian tidak dapat dijamin di banyak tempat sekali di dunia. Oleh kerana itu, amat penting sekali kita melihat beberapa soal pembangunan dalam konteks perdamaian dan juga dalam konteks perang. I will continue my lecture in English as I've been asked to do so, but I think it's important for us to recognize that we are living in very challenging times because of the threat of war. Peace is not something to be taken for granted, and the organization called the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, initiated by Albert Einstein, Robert Oppenheimer, and others, has warned us that we are very, very close to a doomsday scenario of nuclear conflict. It is therefore important for us to recognize that Indonesia, especially the largest country in the ASEAN region, it is important for us to pursue the principles which were agreed to in Southeast Asia of peace, freedom, and neutrality, or ZOPFAN, which was agreed to more than half a century ago. But to put our topic today in context, I would like to share with you some thoughts to understand the possibilities for minerals development in larger historical context. Let us not forget that our international economic relations have been largely shaped by imperialism. Imperialism is not, of course, a new phenomenon. It is a phenomenon which has shaped our economies in Southeast Asia, Indonesia, as well as others, over the last 5 centuries, or certainly at least over the last 4 centuries. As all of you know, the island of Run in Maluku was exchanged by the Dutch for Manhattan. The Dutch gave up Manhattan 4 centuries ago. In return, they got Run, because Run at that time was considered so important, so valuable. It was the source of the most precious spices in the world. And so this was considered to be a very good deal. And you can be sure that the Dutch Republic of that time was extremely concerned about making money. That was the main driver of imperialism, especially for the Dutch during this period. Of course, the interest was not simply in spices, and eventually, over time, especially with the Industrial Revolution 2 centuries ago, there was greater interest and concern about access to minerals, especially metallic minerals. But we will come to that in a moment. 3/4 of a century ago, 2 economists, Hans Singer and Raoul Prebisch, began to talk about the importance of the terms of trade. They showed that the terms of trade historically, especially since the 19th century, have been unfavorable to the producers of primary commodities. And they showed that instead, the producers of manufactures were much better off in terms of the terms of trade since the beginning of the 19th century. This work has been extended by many others, most significantly I would emphasize the Turkish economist Bilge Erten, who has showed that the phenomenon which they identified at that time has continued into the early 21st century. Another parallel finding was the finding of the late Caribbean economist Arthur Lewis. Arthur Lewis showed that the terms of trade for tropical agriculture has declined compared to temperate agriculture. Many people do not pay as much attention to the findings of Arthur Lewis, but I will put it to you that especially when we are concerned today about climate change, it is extremely important to realize that the greatest victims of climate change are largely those in the tropical zone of the world. And so the fact that agriculture has been, the trends of terms of trade of agriculture have been unfavorable to countries in the tropics only compounds the problem which we face, which we face today, especially in the tropical zone. Many of you are aware, because you live in Indonesia, many of you are in Jakarta. Jakarta faces very serious problems because of the rising sea levels. The rising sea levels, which have, in a sense, part of the reason why the new capital is being developed in Nusantara is precisely because these rising sea levels are threaten the future of life in Jakarta and in parts of Java as well as in other islands. It is important for us to recognize, for example, that in Vietnam, which is the third largest exporter of rice in the world, in Vietnam, there are 10 provinces where seawater is now entering those provinces, and it will be impossible to continue the high levels of rice production for the people of Vietnam. Most of us in the tropics, especially in Asia, have rice as the primary source of carbohydrates. This situation is likely to raise rice prices in the future, which will affect people in the tropics, people who are used to eating rice as the main source of calories or carbohydrates, and this will obviously have important implications for those of us in this zone. So the whole question of the terms of trade and how it affects tropical agriculture is extremely important for us to take into consideration. There are many other questions which we can discuss in this context, especially in this period where climate threatens us. I want to emphasize that when Singer and Prebish discussed primary commodities, they were referring to agricultural commodities, but also mineral commodities. And as mentioned earlier, mineral commodities have become increasingly important in the recent period. In the recent period, meaning in the last 2 centuries, with the Industrial Revolution, which has increased the demands for minerals. What we find recently, however, is that the West has largely shaped the concerns of the world as far as climate change and addressing climate change is concerned. Hence, there is a strong bias towards climate change mitigation, the mitigation of global warming. And I want to make clear that it is important for us to mitigate global warming, especially because developing countries, especially in the tropics, are the most vulnerable to climate change. The islands of Indonesia and the Philippines are especially vulnerable for reasons which are obvious because of the rising sea levels I've mentioned earlier. But it's also a problem for many other reasons if we look at the extreme weather events which we have experienced in this part of the world. on the eastern side, especially of the Philippines, but also in Indonesia, we have seen the severity of extreme weather events getting much worse. But there is a difference between the north and the south in terms of what the priority should be. Unfortunately, the view in Europe, which is the most significant region of the world, which is concerned about mitigating climate change, because there is no such commitment in the United States, especially with the re-election of President Trump. What we are likely to see, what we have seen in Europe, is that Europe decided many decades ago that the target for increase for temperatures to increase will be 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels. In other words, over compared to the levels over 2 centuries ago. For them, this is the priority precisely because they also see some benefits. I still remember about 2 decades ago, a very major 3-page article in the New York Times, which is, of course, a large broadsheet newspaper. And the articles were criticizing and concerned about some of the adverse effects of climate change, but it also noted some of the many advantages as far as the United States was concerned of global warming. It noted, for example, that it would be possible with the melting of ice in the Arctic to go from the west coast of the United States to the east coast and vice versa by going through the Arctic Sea rather than going through the Panama Canal. This was something which was celebrated as a major advantage with global warming, and there was no need, according to that article, to expand and make changes to the Panama Canal's capacity, and that there was no need to pursue the possibility of a route through Nicaragua. Similarly, I think it's important for us to recognize that yet another advantage, which has been very important as far as the United States is concerned, the United States expects agricultural yields to significantly increase. Many of us still live with the presumption that agricultural producers of the world, and especially agricultural exporters, are the developing countries. This cannot be further from the truth. The biggest agricultural exporter in the world today is the United States. And agricultural productivity is expected to increase with a longer growing season due to global warming. This was what was being celebrated as the other major advantage for the United States of global warming. As far as other countries are concerned, it is important for us to recognize that the consequences are not benign. They are very adverse, and I need not go through all the changes. I'm sure other people will be talking about it later. But in addressing global climate change, and especially in addressing the needs of mitigation, the promotion of renewable energy sources has become very important. And this has affected the demand, particularly for renewable rare earth elements. And this increased demand for rare earth elements, as well as other elements, other mineral elements, both metallic and non-metallic, needed to prepare alternatives of renewable energy, for example, as well as related equipment, batteries, and so on, have become very important. This has meant a big increase in demand for certain elements which were previously not considered very important and useful. Much of this is to be found in countries like ours. And of course, Indonesia has committed itself to the development of nickel in this connection. Now, the question before us is whether the processing of these primary commodities is the best option for development for developing countries. Many countries have been considering this, and there was a time, especially in the second half of the 20th century, when many countries saw the development, the processing of primary commodities, both agricultural as well as mineral primary commodities, as offering prospects for development. And it is undoubtedly true that some processing of mineral elements from developing countries has been successfully undertaken. But what has happened in many of these instances is that the resulting processing facilities have not been as efficient as others which have been developed elsewhere. So the result is that the subsidies which governments offer for such processing facilities to develop have actually resulted in subsidies for the rich countries, which are the major importer of the results, the products of such processing. And this, I think, is important. Consider, for example, the experience of the bauxite processing, which is important for many countries. Bauxite processing to produce aluminium has undoubtedly been important. And many developing countries actually subsidize energy for such purposes. This, of course, is now a major problem because the cost of energy generation, mainly using fossil fuels, has greatly increased. So it's very important for us to recognize that this is a double-edged sword. While offering the possibilities for development, it is important for us to recognize that there are alternatives. We should also recognize, by looking at the experience of various economies, about whether alternatives may be more viable. It may be more worthwhile to develop certain types of industries, and those other types of industries, rather than the actual processing of those minerals. In other words, we have to ask ourselves whether in situ processing of minerals is the way forward. Undoubtedly, there are many attractions to do so right now. And many countries, including Indonesia and Malaysia, are grappling with some of these challenges. But there is much which we can learn from the experiences elsewhere, from experiences in Africa, from experiences in Latin America. And I see that my old friend Oscar Guateche will be speaking later in this conference. And it's important for us to recognize that there are pros and cons of actual in situ processing. In Malaysia, such in situ processing has happened since colonial period with tin. In fact, Bangka and Belitung, the islands of Bangka and Belitung, south of Singapore, were extremely important and part of the reason why the British colonized parts of Malaysia. Because when the VOC, the Dutch East Indies Company, found tin in Bangka and Belitung, during the time before and during the time, especially during the period of the American Civil War, the Dutch development of this mining of tin in Bangka and Belitung caused the British to panic because they were the main source of tin before that in Cornwall. But their tin deposits were running out. And with the American Civil War, there was a huge increase in the demand for tin because this was the first war ever fought using processed food which was kept and saved in tin cans. So this was extremely important and came at a very important time as far as demand was concerned. But what has happened is that the situation has changed over time, and most of the tin mining facilities in Malaysia no longer exist. They have been given up because it's no longer considered profitable for them to go forward. What we saw was a huge generation of electricity, but that electricity did very little to help Malaysia actually develop. So it's important for us to recognize that many of these things, situations, the attraction of possibilities are very transient. Indonesia, of course, has the experience of having developed plywood industry during the late 20th century. And this was extremely important because it increased the value added for Indonesia and for the companies involved. But was it really worthwhile in terms of Indonesia? These are questions which we need to learn and address as we think about the possibilities of mineral-based development going forward. It is quite possible that some mineral processing may be worthwhile and viable going forward, while others may not be so. It is important for us to recognize that in many areas, especially traditional areas of mineral processing, there is already existing overcapacity. Consider, for example, what has happened in Zambia. In the case of Zambia, as many of you know, Zambia was a major producer and exporter of copper. Then South Africa controlled, because Zambia was a landlocked country, controlled the trade routes, the means by which you exported copper. But this was, of course, a problem during the apartheid period. China helped to develop a railway from Zambia through Tanzania to offer an alternative facility. This was extremely important in the struggle against apartheid and very important. But today, especially following the development and promotion of fiber optics as the main means for telephone lines and so on, we find that the demand for copper has collapsed. And then more recently, it did revive because of the new needs for copper. But again, it collapsed. And now we find that Zambia, which incurred a great deal of debt in order to develop these additional facilities, is now one of the greatest victims of the recent spate of debt crisis in Zambia. So I think it's very important and very timely that Universitas Nasional Veteran is organizing this conference to think and consider these options and possibilities. I hope this conference will be useful in developing, because there are no big generalizations which can be made about these issues. Many of the options which are available for developing countries are often condition specific, historically, geographically, as well as when we consider the different types of minerals involved. I wish this conference very well, and thank you for the kind invitation to join you today. And I wish you well for this conference and Universitas Nasional veteran going forward. Thank you. Terima kasih. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to Prof. Jomo for the insightful presentation. Next is giving a token of appreciation to Prof. Jomo. So I invite conference chair of GCRIS 2024, Ms. Dian Wicaksi, to on stage, please.
Okay. The certificate, please. Okay, Professor Jomo, thank you so much for your insightful speech on behalf of UPN Veteran Jakarta. Please accept this token of appreciation for your valuable contribution.
Thank you, Ms. Dian. Thank you, Prof. Jomo. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we would like to play you video program of GCRIS 2024. Please enjoy watching. Listen to the briefing as well as the opening from the head of Institute of Research and Community Service. Before that, first we will read a short bio of her. Dr. Sri Lestari Wahyuningrum is a political science lecturer at UPN Veteran Jakarta and has been the head of UPN VJ Institute of Research and Community Service since December 2020. She completed her PhD at the Australian National University. Without any further ado, Dr. Sri Lestari Wahyuningrum, the floor is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi, salam sejahtera. Greetings everyone. It's such a shiny day today. It was started with a bit of raining, but it turned out to be shiny, and it's really a good day for us to meet today. I would like to thank you all for coming here, especially Professor Sundaran, who was just giving us the very important keynote for our meetings today. Pak Rector is just here. Pak Rector, good morning. This is our Rector of UPN Veteran Jakarta, Dr. Antar Venus, who's we're very glad and honored to have him to open the session, open the meeting for us today. And also for the speakers, Dr. Agustinus Prasetya-Toko, kemudian, and then also we have Dr. Oscar, I hope I'm saying it right, Ugar Teche, all right. And Dr. Fahru Novian, who is also here and part of the member of Open Veteran Jakarta. We're thankful for the RSF team, Mbak Hendrati Mulyaningsi and all the teams who support us with the conference today. Also the session chairs and colleagues from the Center for Strategic and Sustainable Development Studies, UPN Veteran Jakarta, colleagues and friends from the LPPM, the Institute for Research and Community Service at UPN Veteran Jakarta, all the presenters that are coming today online and offline in the conference. It's I'm very looking forward to joining the sessions and learning a lot from your presentations today, from your research. And everyone who is here coming to this opening, but also online and offline, also in the Zoom meeting. Thank you everyone for coming. This is our third regular annual conference, Jakarta International Conference on Research and Innovation. We've been having this collaboration and the team, and we've been so far capturing important topics each year to have and develop and gather here. So the way we choose the topics is by looking at very significant and important relevant topics today that we have. The first one was more on the resilience of post-COVID. It was 3 years ago. We're looking at initiatives, innovatives, creativities, and the resilience that we can learn during the time of COVID-19 in Indonesia and worldwide. Despite of the pandemic, we've also found that the online conferences was quite effective and very fruitful. We've had many of the papers were published in international, especially international journals. But also the second year, it was more on the disasters and mitigating disasters and the management of disasters, because we've also found that a pandemic is also a disaster, but there are also other disasters that some countries, such as in Indonesia, are prone to. So we think that disaster could also one of the important topics. And again, the second conferences were resulted to success as well as the papers were also published. The third one is today's conference. So we realized that the issues of natural resources, industrial policies, political ecology, and sustainable development in ASEAN, Southeast Asian countries, are very important and significant in today's discussion, including globally. And we are happy that this year, the Center for Sustainable Development and Strategic Studies, Budian, Pak Fahru, and all the friends here that are attending here, took up the issues. We're very glad that the conference then become very strategic also to for us to discuss and update what's going on the particular topics. And we're hoping that from this conference we can share each other, not only sharing each other's research and experience, but also looking forward to have some practical solutions and step forward to tackle all the challenges that we're facing today, as Prof. Sundaram was mentioning in his speech, in his keynote. The challenges of climate change, how we can mitigate that, but also the impacts to the developing countries such as Indonesia and Southeast Asian, other Southeast Asian countries. And this year's conference, we gathered around 30 participants from 5 different countries, including Indonesia, of course, and Malaysia and Timor-Leste, who's also recently, on the process of joining Southeast Asian Association, ASEAN. And thanks to our partner, RSF, who's been very organized and very cooperative, working with us for the last 3 years, and we're still hoping to do more collaborations in the future. So this conference today would not be happening if there were no support from the university. Is in this particularly, I address to Pak Rector, who's been giving a lot of support for us. And we're hoping that it's just not annual conference that we organize every year, but also this conference, GCRIS, becomes a need for everyone, not only in UPN Veteran Jakarta, but also other academics in Indonesia and in other countries. A need for us to gather to discuss scientifically important and relevant topics that's going on today in our world, and the needs for us to sit together and have a dialogue and discussion of what we're going to do to further overcome any challenges in our society, to move for better society in the future in the world, and of course with the contribution of innovative technology and innovative research for us. So again, I thank you everyone who was collaborating and involved in this special conference, and I hope you all have a fruitful day today, very productive, and the discussions also enrich everyone to move together and to collaborate more in the future. So with that, thank you, and good luck everyone. Have a good day, have a great discussion, have a great seminar and conference today. Thank you very much. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat siang. Greetings everyone. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you to Bu Ayu for the insightful speech. To Miss Ayu, please stay at the stage. And next is giving a token of appreciation to Bu Ayu. So I invite conference chairs of GCRIS 2024, Ibu Dian Wicaksi, please, to on the stage. Thank you to Bu Ayu and thank you to Bu Dian. Please have a seat. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for the next agenda, let us together listen to the briefing as well as the opening speech from the Rector of UPN Veteran Jakarta. Before that, first we will read a short bio of him. Antar Venus currently serves as a lecturer in Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Jakarta and Universitas Pajajaran at Faculty of Communication. His field includes Nusantara Ethnicity, Philosophy and Communication, and Organization Campaign and Communication. He also occasionally provides expertise as a consultant and instructor of communication for state-owned enterprise, private sectors, and the government. Without any further ado, Antarvenus, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you, Sasa, our master of ceremony this morning. Good morning, distinguished guests, keynote speakers, panelists, participants, and colleagues. It is both an honor and a privilege to welcome you all to the Jakarta International Conference on Research, Innovation, and Sustainable Development, or JICRIS 2024. Hosted by Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Jakarta in collaboration with the Research Synergy Foundation or RSF. This year, conference marked the third successful iteration of GCRIS, a platform dedicated to fostering innovation, collaboration, and sustainable development in the Asian region and beyond. Over the years, this conference has grown into an important forum for addressing some of the most pressing challenges of our time. Our theme this year, the rise of natural resources norms, industrial policy, and its nexus with sustainable development in ASEAN, is highly relevant as the world faces the challenges of balancing economic growth with protecting the environment. This event brings together participants from various countries, from 5 countries: Indonesia, Brunei Darussalam, the Philippines, East Timor, and Vietnam, demonstrating the growing regional commitment to working together in pursuit of our set goals. It is through such collaborations that we can leverage our collective expertise and resources to create innovative and sustainable solutions for the challenges we face. I extend my heartfelt appreciation to our distinguished keynote speaker, Professor Jomo Kwame Sundaram, whose insight will enrich our understanding of these critical issues. I also thanks to all our invited speakers from 5 countries and participants for your contribution to these vital conversations. As Director of UPenn Veteran Jakarta, I'm proud of our university's mission to lead in research and education that address global and regional challenges. Hosting GCRIS 2024 reaffirms our commitment to fostering interdisciplinary collaboration and driving impactful change. This commitment is deeply rooted in the roles played by the Institute for Research and Community Services, or LPPM, and the Center for Strategic and Sustainable Development, or we call it as PUSCA, SSUD, at UPN Veteran Jakarta. Let this conference serve as a platform for the exchange of knowledge, a catalyst for transformative actions, and a testament to the value of international collaborations. Together, let us work toward a future where economic growth, environmental sustainability, and social equity coexist harmoniously. And on behalf of the organizing committee, I thank you for your participations and wish you all a fruitful and inspiring conference. Should I open this? Yeah. On behalf of Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Jakarta, I am, as a rector of Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Jakarta, officially open this Jakarta International Conference on Research, Innovation, and Sustainability 2024. Thank you.
Please give a big applause. Mr. Rector, please stay at the stage, please. Thank you to Mr. Rector for the insightful speech and opening. Next is giving a token of appreciation to Mr. Rector. So I invite Head of LPPM, UPN Veteran Jakarta, Ibu Ayu, to on stage, please. Thank you, Mr. Rector, and thank you, Ibu Ayu. Please have a seat again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, for the next agenda, let us together listen to the Global Research Ecosystem Introduction from Dr. Hendrati Dewi Mulyaningsi, Co-Conference Chair of GCRIS 2024, founder and chairperson of Research Synergy Foundation. Before that, first we will read a short bio of her. Dr. Hendrati Dewi Mulyaningsi has shown great commitment on creating global network and research ecosystem which has been developing since 2017 up to the present and having increasing number of the member up to more than 30,000 from all around the globe. Without any further ado, Ibu Hendrati, time is yours.
For the brief introduction. Okay. Actually, I need another sound. Okay, that's great. Yeah. On behalf of Research Synergy Foundation, I would like to share regarding with a global research ecosystem that already been created since 2017, and also this global research ecosystem supported this conference. So in here, I would like to share regarding with this global research ecosystem. Okay, sweet. I apologize for some technical matters. Okay. Okay. Okay, first of all, thank you so much for our host, UPN Veteran Jakarta, to Bapak Rektor. Thank you so much. And also Ibu Ayu that already having a very good coordinations and collaboration in conducting this conference, and then it has become a really successful conference. And in here, I would like to say thank you so much to all the organizing committee of the both parties, Research Synergy Foundation and also UPN Veteran Jakarta that conducted this conference together. And in here, we would like to share regarding with the support system that already supported since 2020 for the GCRIS first. And because this is our third collaboration in international conference for the GCRIS, and in 2022, the total number of participants of this of the conference is more than 300, and it is already participated by 15 countries and also 13 institutions, and it comes from also from the government, industry, and also the academician or in a university. And for the GCRIS 2023, the total number of participants is more than hundreds, and it is participated by 17 institutions from 14 countries. And then for this GCRIS 2024, the total number of participants, I say that it is more than, because right now in our system, because it is also the virtual and online participant that will come to attend this conference, there are more than 300 from 20 countries. It can be more because right now we still open for the attendee. There are open attendee, call for open attendee, and it is spread out for free, and then they can attend for free. And we already invite all of our network in here. And right now in our system, there are more than 300 participants, and then from 20 institutions and 20 countries. Okay. And then this is regarding with our institutions, Research Synergy Foundations as a digital social enterprise platform. We are focusing in how we build a collaborative network, and we are embracing not only the academician, because the researcher in our ecosystem is also come from the government and industry, since they are also having a lot of good research, and then they are also have a lot of impact in how they can contribute in the humanity and also society in enhancement the quality of their life or etc. So we are here focused on how they can enhance the impact regarding with their research, not only come from the academician but also come from the government. And then this is our support system. And we can see here there are 5 support systems, and I can say in Bahasa Indonesia because I do believe UPN Veteran Jakarta also will proud of our achievement. I can say in Bahasa that this is hasil karya anak bangsa yang alhamdulillah sudah mempunyai impact more than 30,000 members that has already get the benefit. So there are beneficiaries from all of our support system programs that already have a lot of benefit. They have benefit and value, and since 2017 and 2023. For example, for this conference right now participated by 29 presenters, and then it is also supported by 36 reviewers that are already being a part in our review track. Review track is our hub of our reviewer, and it is already supported by 1,000 of scientific reviewer, and it is accommodate more than 2,000 field of studies. And then for the Scholar Fund itself, because this main support of this conference is Scholar Funds, and we are having already more than 200 conferences. They are already conducted in many countries, more than 15 countries. And then the participant then already participated in this Colorfin or in this conference, I mean like from 2017, is more than 11,000 right now. So this is one of the numbers that increasing every year. And then for the Research Synergy Institute, since our stakeholder is not only just the author that would like to be published in some reputable indexed journal, but we are also having our partner publisher that already affiliate officially with Research Synergy Foundations. They are Taylor and Francis and also Emerald. And for the Taylor and Francis, we are a part of the F1000 research for the gateway advisory. So there are only 50 advisory gateway that already being chosen by Taylor and Francis for supported F1000 research. And RSF is become one of it. And there are also this conference also supported by Research Synergy Press. And this is our publishing house. And right now we have 20 international journal, and it is already indexed in some reputable indexer as like EBSCO, and then Copernicus, Sinta, and Dimension, and etc. And 5 of them already being submitted into Scopus. And then the last but not the least, this is our support system. It's called Global Research Ecosystem. So from this global research ecosystem, we engage. There are 4 session chairs. So you can see in on our poster, there are 4 session chairs. They're already being engaged and being collaborate with us in this conference, and they are come from our global research ecosystem. I mean, like from the global research community. So since I can see that this conference is not just only conference, but also this is like a grand networking, since there are many of researchers that come from many countries, and it is a really great opportunity to all of you here to extend the collaborations. It can be more than just not just not just having conference, but also there are many of paper collaboration. For example, this conference, maybe only 15 minutes you are making any discussion with the session chair, but maybe in the next time you can extend into another discussion. So this is the forum to extend the discussion. If you found there are any fruitful discussion from this conference, you can extend that, and then you can have any collaboration with this session chair or keynote or whoever that will be interested in your research. So this is the platform, collaboration community platform that could make it happen. Okay, please join to this platform to extend the collaboration. And then this conference is not just only end up in this conference only, but also you can extend into another activity. It can be another paper collaborations, book chapter collaboration, and etc. So we welcome to all of you regarding with that, and welcome to our big family of Research Synergy Foundation Global Research Ecosystem. And there are more than 30,000 members that already being a part of our ecosystem. Okay, and then this is our value. Since we know that this is scientific forum, the way how we conduct this conference is one of our key point is upholding the integrity. So that's why we have reviewer track. And in here, the value proposition that we propose to all of you is reliable and integrity. Since all of the participants also, they will have the feedback that come from our reviewer. So it means that there are any opportunity to enhance the quality of publications through the feedback, and then they can revise, and then they can increase the eligibility to be published in some reputable indexed journal. So this is one of the way how we are taking care seriously in this program, especially for this conference. And for the Scholar Fund itself, the system that maybe all of the presenter already known that there are any transparency, there are any stage every in your account, there are stage in which stage your paper already been treated. So that's why it is the transparency in here. We can say that this is the reputation, and also how we manage it very carefully, and also we manage it very tightly and also seriously. And then for the recognition itself, we invite to all of you, not just only call for paper, but also call for the session chair, and also call for the reviewer, and also call for the editorial board, and also call for keynote speaker, and etc. So this is not only just a conference actually, but also before that, we are also call for the reviewer. For example, if there are many of if there are some of research field that we don't have any reviewer on that, so we call for the reviewer to prepare that this conference can be supported, and then upholding the integrity regarding with the scientific process itself. And then there are a value that already being proposed in all of our support system. For example, for the Research Synergy Press, since all of our journal is in open journal system, so it means that there are any opportunity, a huge opportunity to all of the participants to have a coverage in citation. So I mean, like there are any opportunity to be cited widely, because this is open journal system. And then mostly our journal is zero APC. So we are also call for paper for all of to all of you for our journal in our Research Synergy Press. And then regarding with Research Synergy Institute, since we are also a part of this stakeholder, and I mean, like there are any editorial requirements. So the empowerment here means that since we know that all of the authors, they have capacity, they have a really good result in their research field, and etc. And then we also know that the editorial having some kind of requirement. So that's why we are here to minimize that gap. How the author can minimize the gap, and then they can adjust with the editor requirement, and then they can increase the eligibility of of their research, and then can be accepted in some reputable indexed journal. So that's why we have many programs regarding with how to minimize that gap between editorial from the F1000 research, Taylor and Francis, and also Emerald. We have many programs, for example, for Ask the Editor, coaching, webinar, and etc. We have many of it. Okay, and then this is one of our support system that supported this conference regarding with the output of application. Since we have to convince to all of you that your paper will be treated very seriously and then very well, and then it can be published in all of this journal. And then you can browse in this journal, and because the journal recommendation in Scholar Fan, you already have the stage of, in the end of the stage is journal recommendations, and you can see there in which journal you will recommend. If your journal, if your paper already having a good in weight scoring, so it can be recommended in our journal affiliation in Scopus Indexed with the Emerald and also with F1000 Research and Tel and Francis. So this depends on how good the quality of your paper, and then it is also depend on how the reviewer will give the weighting of the score of your paper. So do your best regarding with that, and please send your full paper, and then do your best regarding with how you can revise and then increasing the eligibility, and then from the feedback of the reviewer, you can make it as like feedback that will be what will reviewer from the journal can see from your paper. So it is a good opportunity to all of you, because everyone have the equal opportunity to publish in some reputable indexed journal. And then this is also announcement. In the end of this year, I can proudly say that I can proudly announce that there are 9 international journals in our Research Synergy Press, our publishing house, already indexed in Copernicus. And also some of them are indexed in Sinta. And also next year, right now, we are ongoing collaboration with the ProQuest. So please be patient. In 2025, all of our journal will be collaborate with ProQuest. Yeah, in whichever form of collaboration. Yeah, okay. And then this is our official announcement also that we are since 2020, we are collaborate with Taylor and Francis as one of the advisory gateway in F1000 research. This is Scopus Q1. And then in last August, we are already, last October, not August, 2024, we are collaborate and with officially with Emerald. So this is a really good achievement to us also, and to all of you, that everyone have have a good opportunity and equal opportunity to be published in some this reputable indexed journal. Okay, and then please join to our big family in our global set ecosystem, because we have many of information as like call for reviewer, call for book chapter collaboration, and etc. So please be there and keep it up, and we will inform you through our platform for all of our programs, continuing program for the upcoming program and future collaborations. And then thank you so much to all of the participants. And because this is our 7 years journey, so there are many that we can share to all of you. And thank you. And come back to Master of Ceremony. Thank you so much.
For the global research head of LPPM UPN VJ, Ibu Ayu, to on stage, please. Please go to podium, Miss.
Oke, kameranya di mana?
For committee, please. On screen.
Okay, Mbak Yani and all the team at RSF, thank you so much for our continued collaboration. Hello, Mbak Yani. Thank you so much for the continued collaboration. This is our third year in collaboration, and we've been having very constructive and very fruitful collaboration, and we are hoping RSF to continue assist us in especially for the publications of the papers from the conferences. With your keep growing up ecosystem and achievements. We are also proud of it, and we are proud to be part of it with you and the team, RSF team. So please accept a token of appreciation from us. Also on behalf of our rector here, we just back in the seat, we were just talking about RSF and your achievements so far, and we're happy to also be part of it. Thank you so much, Mbak Yani. Thank you.
Once again, thank you to Ibu Hendrati and thank you to Ibu Ayu. Please have a seat again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, now we will hold a photo session with our participants today. We would like to inform the participants in Zoom to remain on cam, please, for a while as there will be some slide. For the committee, please feel free to take a screenshot. And all of the audience at the auditorium Bhinneka Tunggal Ika of UPN Veteran Jakarta, please rise to take a picture, please. The first row is for the speaker and the rector. And the second row is for all the audience. For the first pose is formal pose. Cross your hand. 1, 2, 3. Bela Negara pose. Put your right hand in front of your left chest. For rector and speaker, change position, please. For the first pose is formal pose. Cross your hand like this, please. I will count down this photo session. Well, 3, 2, 1, please. Give your best smile. And the second pose is Bela Negara pose. Put your right hand in front of your chest like this. 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Please have a seat again. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's move on to the next agenda. Let's together listen to the presentation from the speakers. For the first, Dr. Oscar Ugarte from Universidad Nacional Autónoma de Mexico from Mexico, Dr. Agustinus Prasetyan Togo from Atmajaya Institute of Public Policy Indonesia, Fahru Novrian PhD from Universitas Pembangunan Nasional Veteran Jakarta. And this session will be moderated by Mr. Ahmad Nur Hidayat MPP. However, before we continue this session, we will read the short bio of the moderator first. Ahmad Nur Hidayat previously earned Master Public Policy on Economic Policies from National University of Singapore and from Tsinghua University, Beijing, China in 2009. He had an executive education from Harvard Kennedy School of Government, Boston, USA in 2012. He is currently assisting and providing recommendation for both the Supervisory Board of Central Bank of Indonesia, and Government of Indonesia in the effort to increase sustainable economic growth, maintain the financial system stability, and reinvent human resources capacities in line with technological disruption. Without any further ado, to Mr. Ahmad Nur Hidayat, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Disa. I think it's a very bright morning, and I would like to say very good morning for all of you, for you in this audience, and also for you in the Zoom. I think it is great honor to me to lead these discussions. I think we already have three distinguished speakers, and I would like, before start these discussions, I would like to say many thank you to our Honorable Rector, Dr. Antarvenus, Bu Ayu, Sri Wahyuni Rum, Emma PhD, Dr. Dian Caksi, Dr. Hendarti, and our distinguished speakers, Professor Jomo, who has already left this Zoom because he have any appointment. And we already have in the Zoom Dr. Oscar Ugarteche. Please give the great applause for Dr. Oscar. And also I would like to invite Dr. Fahru to come to the stage here as the second speaker. Please, Pak Fahru, accompany with me in the stage because I'm quite fair without here. Please, Pak Fahru, please give the great applause for Dr. Fahru. And also our esteemed scholar, visionaries and guests from around the world. I have them told by the MC. Actually, this conference, we collecting more than 20 countries conducting and attending this seminar. I think it is very rare experience that we can collect together as the nations, as the global citizens, to thinking for a while about innovations and sustainable development. And I think it is the signal that the climate change is not only responsible for the big country in the world, but all around the nations should have responsibility thinking about our future, especially global climate issues, sustainability development, poverty, disparity, and any global politics intentions nowadays. So it is my absolute honor and privilege to welcome all of you to this remarkable event, the Jakarta International Conference and Research Development, Sustainable Development, GCRIS 2024. Actually, this is very unique experience because this is the third GCRIS, and this is the first time we have hybrid conference, which is the online and the offline. In here in front of me in the live our beloved university, I think almost 100 people attending this conference. And I look at in the Zoom participant, there is more than 150 participants in this conference. So totally we almost have 30 participants actively in the online, in the offline in this conference. I think it is very good, and thank you. We give the big applause for Mrs. Dian, the chairman, and the co-chairman, Ibu Hendarti. So I think I want to have the very important notes for this conference because we have three speakers, three distinguished speakers. But in the information that we have this morning that Professor Agustinus Prasetyanto cannot attending this conference because he should be accompanied with his wife going to the hospital. So we are very sorry. And the emergency unit, we pray to wife of Professor Prasetyo Joko getting well and there is no something bad happen. So we only have in this conference two distinguished speakers, which is Professor Dr. Oscar Utargeci. Please, maybe the operator can help me to have the spotlight to Dr. Oscar, because the Dr. Oscar actually in the online conference. And I want to give some greeting. Dr. Oscar, can you listen my voice? Can you hear me? Will you like give a bit of word? Professor Oscar. We already online with him. And I will give first lecture, I think first experience for Dr. Oscar to give his presentations. Before that, I would like to read his profile. Dr. Oscar, can you hear me? I think we have still have problem with the connection and with the sound. The operator can help me to live with him. In the previous information, Dr. Oscar Tejek, Mexico, right? But in the slide presentation, I already have that Professor Oscar actually the visiting professor National University of San Marcos and Lima. So he have very experience in the Latin America economy. And Dr. Oscar Ugarteche Galarza, actually a Peruvian economist, author, and a professor, and he expertise spans economics, international finance, and also his extensively body of work specialist in economics, international finance, economic history, and global economics. He began his higher education in literature at the Pontifical Catholic University of Peru, later continuing in the finance at Fordham University in New York, where he received the Who is Who in the American College and University Award. He completed a master's degree in international finance in London Business School and PhD in philosophy and history at University of Bergen, Norway. In December 2015, he was awarded an honorary doctorate by the National University of San Agustin in Arequipa, Peru, for his contribution to international economics knowledge. He also a prolific writer, and he has served as the consultant for the prestigious organizations such as World Bank, UNTAD, and ECLEC, and has been, I think, the visiting professor in Oxford University and Free University of Berlin. So, in this season, I will give 20 to 25 minutes to Dr. Oscar, and we follow by the 50-minute Q&A sessions. During the Q&A, I encourage all participants to share your thoughts and the question in the chat, or to raise your hand in the engage to directly in this forum, and let us take this opportunity to make this the most Dr. Oscar present and insight. So, without further ado, Dr. Oscar, Professor Oscar, the virtual floor are yours.
Yes. Thank you very much for your kind words. I'm very pleased to be invited again to Jessica. I was looking at the records now, and it's my third invitation to Jessica in 4 years, which is a privilege. I'm very happy to share with you my thoughts and doubts, and I'm very happy to have seen Jomo, my very old friend, and Fahru, whom I met in Malaysia some years ago. My paper is called Development Policies in Asia versus Latin America. And what I am going to look at is the differences between the use of raw materials and the consequences. I have no idea if you can see my PowerPoint, but I am going to look at 4 countries: Malaysia, Vietnam, Brazil, and Mexico. These are 4 countries that have had very different paths development path over the past 40 years. Malaysia is now an upper middle income country with a multi-ethnic that has relied heavily on natural resources to then diversify into non-resource based manufacturing and has significantly raised the incomes of all ethnic groups. It has raised its standard of living significantly. Vietnam, and it's non-resource based. Vietnam, after 20 years of war, had in 1975 one of the poorest economies in the world, and certainly in Asia. In 1970, economy, and today in 2024, it is a middle income economy. It is also non-resource based. Both Malaysia and Vietnam use planning as an instrument of development policy. Brazil and Mexico, on the other hand, were middle-income economies in 1975 and remain middle-income economies 50 years later. Their exports are resource-based. In the case of Brazil, it's soybeans, crude oil, iron ores, concentrate, sugar, corn, solid residues, soybean oil, and poultry meat, and some petroleum oils. In the case of Mexico, it is based on low wages. The resource is low wages. And what it does is basically put together products with inputs imported from the US and China, essentially. This has the result in Mexico and Brazil has been very slow growth. And the second result, for the case of Mexico in particular, is that migration grew significantly. There are now 37 million Mexicans living in the United States. And after 1994, there was a surge in migration from Mexico to the United States because wages fell in real terms. What we have seen then is 2 Latin American countries that have not grown following orthodox economic policies, and 2 Asian economies have grown following development policies. And clearly, the results are different. Now, the fact that the resource-rich countries in Latin America have centered on raw materials and on low wages, while the Asian economies have centered on knowledge, makes all of the difference in the world. In one case, it leads to economic growth and employment. In the other case, it has led to a stagnation. The common denominator for Brazil and Mexico is that there is no planning or very little planning, and the investment in education, in public education, is very low. So the contrast with Asia is very significant. Now, Mexico exports cars, automobile parts, trucks, computers, insulated cable and wires, tractors, electromedical equipment, phone devices. And you would expect all of that to result in a complex economy. However, the inputs for all of these exports are practically all imported. So the only contribution to the exports is low wages, and these are produced in export processing zones that are tax-free. So the contributions to the overall economy is very, very small. Malaysia's development policies, and I think I don't need to delve on this very much, is now 60 years old and in its 11th edition. And the plans have been instrumental in driving growth and socioeconomic reforms, even in difficult times like the late 90s. Malaysia's planning system combines top-down and bottom-up approaches, and it has stakeholder participation through broad consultation, which means there is planning and there is a dialogue between the official planning agency and the stakeholders to take them into account. It is backed by budgetary resources and a strong mandate from the Ministry of Economic Affairs. That means that not only do they plan, but they execute the plan with resources from the Ministry of Planning, which ensures policy implementation. This is something that does not happen any longer in Latin America. Now, in Malaysia, there is strong foreign direct investment for export sectors encouraged through key legislation in 68, 71, and 86. There's promotion of export-oriented industries from the 1970s onwards. There is industrial diversification. Faced with pressure from synthetic rubbers, it developed a petrochemical industry to replace natural rubber. And it had an initial industrialization with import substitution that then developed further. In the case of Vietnam, the National Plan 2125 means to foster rapid sustainable economic growth while ensuring stability, and it centers its efforts on advancing science, technology, and innovation. So it's a knowledge-based development versus a raw materials-based development or a low-wage-based development in the case of Mexico and Brazil. Now, Vietnam's strategy seems to be driven by trade liberalization, domestic reforms, deregulation, and public investment in education and infrastructure. That is a common denominator of Malaysia and Vietnam. They have not only plans and economic planning and an instrumental economic planning that turns into a development policy, but they also have public investment, high public investment in education and infrastructure. This has been abandoned in Latin America. And it was abandoned in Latin America in the belief that the market would show the way, after having said, mistakenly, that the problem of Latin America was industrialization policies. The problem of Latin America in the late 1970s, early 1980s was not the industrialization policies, it was the interest rates. But the diagnosis was that it was the industrialization policies. So what happened in this part of the world is that we were deindustrialized. And when we were deindustrialized, the export base turned into even more raw materials based. So we were in a process of industrialization, which was stopped flat, and then the export base grew on the basis of raw materials. The combination is fatal because we use more raw materials at a time of climate change and drought. We have a water problem, and we're exporting agricultural products and we're exporting minerals. To export minerals, we have to wash the minerals. And when we wash the minerals, we contaminate, we pollute the rivers that end up in the Amazon jungle. So we're killing the Amazon jungle, polluting the waters, and exporting the minerals. The relationship between Latin America and its main partner, trading partners, has not changed. The partners have changed. Today, the United States is no longer the main partner of Latin American countries. It is for Mexico, but it is basically for Mexico and Central America. For South America, China is the main export partner. And the second export partner is the European Union. Third becomes the Latin American countries themselves. The United States comes in there afterwards. Now, with this pattern of trade, it could have been expected that the trade relationship would change. But no, it has not. China invests in mining in Latin America, and it exports mineral products as raw materials to its country in order to transform it there into a final good or sell it from the Shanghai commodities market. That's the route we're now taking with China. In terms of agriculture, it is now the major buyer of grains for Argentina and Brazil, which are the largest grain producers in the world after the US and Russia. And they're the largest buyers. So what we now have, we're exporting water. We're exporting water from a region that is affected by drought, and we're exporting minerals and polluting the rivers with waters to wash the minerals. The question is, this doesn't generate much economic growth. So much so that we are speaking of 30 years to 3 decades lost. 3 decades of economic growth lost. It is clear that World Bank IMF policies are useless, and it is clear that the market-led policies alone don't function. That's clear as day. Now, what is less clear is how do we move forward? And here we have 2 ways forward. One is the Indonesian way, where it banned the export, I think it was iron ore, and obliged Chinese investors to create factories and manufacture final goods in Indonesia in order to go back to the market. That's one way forward. Now, that's a very risky way forward because you have all kinds of international agreements that can force you to open the market up again. But then the other one, of course, is that you can scare the hell out of the investor and have them leave the country, which is not the point. The point is for them to produce, but to produce and contribute to the development of the economy, not only for their profits. So I was thinking, and I spent the last several weeks thinking about what to say tonight of how to transform raw materials or to induce the transformation of minerals, at least, into final goods so that the terms of trade do not deteriorate further and that they generate employment, the development. So what I thought is, why don't we build in a system of retainers as a proportion of the raw materials prices with a scale down reduction as value is added to the commodity. So the idea is the government puts a levy on the raw material price that is being exported, and puts a levy that is so large that it turns the international price at below cost. It creates a disincentive to export the raw material. That levy goes into an environmental fund. And when the mining company or whomever is associated with a mining company creates a factory to turn the raw material into a final good, the price of the raw material will be taken at the international level, and the money that was paid into this environmental fund will be given back to them over a certain period of time as an incentive for their having built the factory. That mechanism should generate industrial investments, employment, and domestic economic growth, which we need here in Latin America, we need desperately. The reason of using a retainer and not a tax is because here, at least, and I'm sure in Asia it's the same, we have bilateral investment agreements with the US that do not allow the creation of new taxes. And we have free trade agreements with the US and with the EU that do not allow new taxes. So it can be something that is not, properly speaking, a new tax, but is a retainer, is a disincentive for the export of raw materials, and that might help for the transformation of exports. I think this is something that is worthwhile discussing, and we can discuss this later on if you're interested. I was struck by the results in the PISA evaluations in the Asian countries. Vietnam has very high scores in PISA in mathematics and reading, and so does Malaysia. On the other hand, in Latin America, the PISA results are now 1/3 below the OECD average. We have fallen from where we were. We have fallen several steps behind. And that's the result of the reduction in investment in education in Latin America versus the strengthening of education at all levels in Asia. So in short, while Asian countries managed to accelerate their economic development with sustained national plans through public investment in infrastructure and education combined with market policies, in Latin America, both countries, Brazil and Mexico, have limited investment in education. The PISA performance of Asian countries is about average with the OECD, while Latin America is at the tail end 30% below average. Asian countries chose fields where they wanted to excel, while Latin America used market criteria and are raw materials based. Asian countries are open to foreign investment and international trade with robust state planning and education. Latin Americans have the same, but have weak or no state planning and weak public education. Asian countries are members of ASEAN, which are their main trading partners. Latin American ones have little trade among themselves. All in Latin America, all have an important relationship with China. The Asian countries are moving to non-resource-based exporting economies, while Latin America remains resource-based on raw materials, essentially. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. We give big applause for Dr. Oscar. You have precisely 20 minutes, Dr. Oscar. I think you are already deliver very great presentations, illuminate the difference in the development policies between Asia and Latin America, and also highlighting the crucial role of the state planning and foreign direct investment and education in the shaping the sustainable economic growth. I think your analysis on Malaysia and Vietnam's strategic approach to development, balancing in the industrial diversifications, in infrastructure investment and trade liberalizations is provide for the policymakers worldwide. So I think you already mentioned very, in my opinion, very good thoughts regarding environmental fund scheme, which is mechanism to incentivize, give the incentive raw material processing, also offer the creative solutions to the complex challenge of the balancing resources extractions with environmental sustainability. And also I think you already gave the policy innovations to and the grounded analysis to make our work impactful. So I think it is a very good opportunity for all the participants through online and offline to have the questions. Before that, I would like to further enrich the discussions that I would like to pose Dr. Oscar with two questions. Number one, in the current global economics climate, Dr. Oscar, how can countries like Mexico and Brazil strengthening their educational system and planning mechanism to emulate the success story of the country like Vietnam and Malaysia? This is number one. And the second question is, with the rise of the global climate initiative, what role do you see for the regional collaborations, such as the ASEAN, for the ASEAN, or the potential counterpart for the Latin America in fostering sustainable economic policy? So this is the first beginning, the two questions from me. Maybe you would like to answer it, Dr. Oscar, please. Okay, regarding the collaboration among the nations, like you mentioned about the initiative for the global climate, we need the regional collaborations. We have ASEAN, we have counterpart in Latin America. So what the rule do you see for the regional regulations in the middle time that we have very intense of the geopolitics tensions in everywhere? Can you hear? Dr. Oscar?
Yes.
Okay. And I also invite all the participants in Zoom. If you have the question, please chat in the box chat, and I will ask by I will choose the questions with the relevant one. Please, Dr. Oscar, maybe you will answer my both questions.
Do I answer now?
Excuse me?
Yes.
Okay.
In the current economic situation, how can Mexico and Brazil emulate the Asians in general? Well, one thing is we have to start by recognizing what is not working. That's the start. It is easier for Brazil because it is further away from the United States. But we all need to recognize that the policies that were introduced in the 1990s did not produce the economic growth expected. They have produced massive outflows of people, massive migration, and there is no discussion. Nobody is discussing why Latin America has not grown. In fact, so much so that we just state that it's one lost decade, two lost decades, three lost decades. And why and where was the decade lost? And Argentina and Brazil have about 30 cases. The financial sector takes away a chunk of it. So we need a redesign of the budget, and we need a redesign of the tax system. Now, regional collaboration, we have a very bad experience with regional collaboration. Over 200 years, all of the attempts to have long-term collaborations with our neighbors have fallen through. All of them. The 3 or 4 Central American initiatives for integration fell through. The Andean Pact fell through. The Andean Community fell through. The Latin American Common Market fell through. And there was something called the Agreement of La Cuenca de la Plata of 1941. That did not fall through. It was stripped. But why do these things fall through? Basically because we don't have an understanding here, a common understanding of where we want to go. I have the impression, or whatever many differences you might have inside society, there are some common understandings. There's a common ground of where you want to take society. Here, there is apparently no common ground. So we walk in one direction, and then somebody else says, no, that's not the way, and that is what this is. And we keep zigzagging.
Okay.
We can have maybe not 22 countries, but maybe three that might want to go in the same direction. Maybe the Central American ones might want to go in the same direction.
Okay.
So we can try to do it slowly by groups of the countries of the Southern Cone that stick together and include Chile. They might work together well. But of course, it's difficult.
Okay.
Because
Sure.
we are here extremely polarized. It's all ideological.
Sure.
It is either free market, like Mr. Milei in Argentina, and it's free market and the state has no role. The combination that you need, the state and the market,
Sure.
is not discussed. It's not discussed. It's ideologically driven more than theoretically. So that's the situation.
Okay, collaboration, state and market, very insightful. Okay, I will invite here Dr. Tauhid and Dr. Santi. Maybe both of you have the questions. Please don't forget to mention your name, introduce yourself. Our college in the stage, in the offline, I will invite all of you in the online. Please give me the sign like the raise your hand in the Zoom facility, in the Zoom feature. So I would like to uh, give a chance for you to ask directly to Dr. Oscar. Please, Dr. Tauhid. Yeah, we have the question from Dr. Tauhid. Please, Dr. Tauhid.
Thank you, Mr. Hidayat, for your opportunity to me. Dr. Oscar, yeah, we know that we had a lot of regional cooperation, like investment, trade, and also green energy. But the problem, the position between country is different, like Indonesia, Malaysia, or US position within this cooperation. How we make the same position with the role of regional cooperation between between country if the position initially different, like uh, like we are already a developing country, but our partner is a developed country, such as that. The second one is how we make scenario and architecture to make cooperation between country like a structure, membership, or how commitment between stakeholder like Indonesia with a BRIC or Indonesia with another corporations like OECD and other cooperation. How we mix scenario and architecture because we have to make a lot of decision in maybe in 5 years from right now. Thank you. I hope you understand.
And I think we will save it and invite another Dr. Santi Darmastuti. Please, Dr. Santi.
Okay, thank you for the opportunity. Great presentation from Dr. Oscar. I have two questions. Uh, Perhaps I will concern about the Mexico economic landscape. We know that recently the economic landscape in Mexico faced many challenges related to the economic downturn, and then we know the economic relationship with US. Uh, Recently, we know that under the Trump administrations, that Trump will implement the tariff for the Mexico export for to US about 25%. Talking about the green industry and then economic sustainability, we cannot neglect about the economic landscape and then about the cooperations between US and Mexico under the USMCA, under USMCA. Uh, Kindly asking you about what is your point of view related to the recent economic situations or economic landscape between Mexico and US. What kind of the strategy or policy that will conduct by the Mexico government to secure their to secure the environmental sustainability and then economic sustainability regarding to the economic policy that will be implemented by the Trump administrations. And then the second, my questions relate to the environmental sustainability. We know in USMCA cooperations, they already had the environmental agreement that already concluded in 2020s. What do you think about this agreement? If this agreement can implement it effectively or can implement well in Mexico, and what kind of the challenges that faced by the Mexico government to implement the environmental agreement in the USMCA? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Santi. Very good question regarding Trump administration, yeah, in the forthcoming. And I think, Dr. Oscar, I saw you write down the question, so I will invite on the online uh, Mr. Sapta and Mrs. Ifoma. Maybe administrator of the Zoom can turn on the mute. Mr. Sapta, would you like to turn on your video and your microphone? And I will give you a chance to ask directly to Dr. Oscar. And I think Ifoma already turned on the microphone. Please, Ifoma. What your question? Yes, okay. Excellent. Hello? Yeah, yeah. Continue. Proceed, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. Good morning from Nigeria. Professor Oscar, thank you very much for your beautiful and insightful presentation. I have just one question. From your analysis, I was able to establish that where the African countries are in terms of educational development is similar to the development level in Latin America. I find a lot of similarities and doesn't look very good. Please, can you tell us what you think can be done to ensure educational development? Thank you, Professor. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Ifoma. Very straight questions. And Sapta, Mr. Sapta? Yeah, okay.
Well, thank you very much, sir, for the opportunity. Hello, Dr. Oscar. Thank you very much for your insightful knowledge that you just shared. I am Saptar Subakit. I am one of the students of master degree in UPN Veteran Jakarta. And what I would like to ask about is your point of view in the future regarding the second election of President Donald Trump. What is the impact in the future towards Mexico economic circumstances? Also, what is the impact of the Asian countries, especially Indonesia, in the future? And the second question is, what is your point of view about the scenario that going on in Indonesia about the electricity vehicle?
Electricity what?
That been advertised by the government and yeah, and etc. What is your point of view about my two questions? Thank you very much, Dr. Oscar. God bless you.
Sorry, I did not understand the second question.
The second one about the electricity. Can you elaborate more, Sapta?
Yes, in Indonesia nowadays, our government has been applied very low government tax for the belonging of electricity vehicle. I mean, like, what is your point of view about
Oh,